Do you know who the world's richest financier is? No, it's actually a man called Warren Buffett, also known as the Oracle of Omaha, and somebody who I have followed for many years in his wisdom. His partner is a man called Charlie Munger, who, compared to Warren Buffett's $95 billion net worth, is only worth about $1.5 billion. He famously said, "Tell me where I will die so that I need never go there." Now this seems like a really funny thing to say, but it kind of makes a lot of sense, and it builds upon an idea that we're going to talk about called inversion. Inversion is about avoiding stupidity or thinking about what we don't want. And we're going to talk about, what does bad preparation look like? A lot of times people want to think about how to prepare well for video interviews. What does good look like? But we can actually learn a lot by avoiding the bad and being less dumb than other people. And there are four key ideas. The first is analysis paralysis. And this is basically what I typify as trying to prepare for every single question. A couple of weeks ago, I had a young professional lady contact me from Australia. She said that she wanted to prepare to move from one professional services firm to another. I said, that's fine. Send me over anything that you have already done so far so I can have a look at your work and get an idea of what your foundational level is. She sent me over a script of questions that was over 30 pages long. This is a really good example of analysis paralysis. There's no way she could ever prepare for all of those questions or effectively learn for that script. So what's the opposite to this? Well, the opposite is the 80-20 rule of selection, which is basically we're going to choose the 20% of questions which have an 80% likelihood of turning up based upon the information that we already have. And in fact, it's actually much less than this. And that's something we talk about later on in the video interview masterclass. The second point is avoiding effective practice. Now, I'm always really surprised by how often graduates and professionals will avoid just doing the practice, doing the work, as it were. And what that means is that how can we get better at video interviews? Well, we would practice shooting video and watching that video back, surely. But a lot of people will avoid that. They will kind of sit there mumbling to themselves, looking at their scripts, reading it over and over like there's some sort of actor or actress rehearsing for a Shakespearean play. Now, we want to think about the actions that are most effective. And as the author Tim Ferriss said in his very famous book, The 4-Hour Workweek, and many other 4 hours of afterwards, it's not about how we do things, it's actually what's important is what we do. It doesn't matter if what we're doing, it doesn't matter how we do something if what we are doing is bad already. We're just making a bad process slightly better. So what's the third idea of inversion and bad preparation? Well, not setting deadlines. Often what I'll see is people will spend way too much time on one particular aspect, which is generally question selection and preparation. So they'll spend a lot of time on YouTube and Reddit and all these different forums trying to research all of these different questions, which is maybe what brought you here to this video today on YouTube, as you're falling into a kind of black hole of research. And then they try to prepare for all these different questions. Well, that's not really effective if we're talking about point number 2, which is avoiding effective practice. What you really need to be doing is you need to be doing more of this and less of this, right? And it's something that people miss time and time again. So we use kind of another, I wouldn't say a derivative of the 80-20 rule, but something that's very helpful, which is called Parkinson's law. So Parkinson's law is that work will expand or contract to the amount of time that you have to do this. And you've probably had this experience yourself in terms of cramming for exams. I can remember doing my A-levels and cramming for one of my A-levels in one night, because literally I just had given myself no time, and ironically it ended up being the A-level that I actually scored the highest in. Who knew? So what we can do is that we can actually set artificial deadlines for ourselves. And again, that's something we're going to talk about more in terms of thinking, how much time should I spend finding questions, preparing answers for those questions, and then practicing for those questions. These are really valid points, but something that people rarely think a lot about. The final idea of inversion is a little bit more abstract, but I hope that you'll stick with me. And it is a biological mental model, and it's called self-preservation. Now, self-preservation, or sort of the human condition or the monkey mind, is that basically I don't like stuff that's painful. I only want to do things that are pleasurable, like watching videos on YouTube or eating food that's bad for me. I don't want to sit there and study or read a book or do something deeply, though those things will change over time. So what we really need to think about is, a lot of times it's kind of weird that people they are so scared of failure, they'll actually avoid preparing for something. They just won't do it, or they say, yeah, it'll be fine, I'm okay. And then they're devastated. I've seen this so many times with candidates where they just haven't prepared, they fail, then they're horrified. They're like, I can't believe I failed. And I'm like, what did you actually do to prepare? And they're like, oh yeah, I kind of did half an hour here and there. And I'm like, well, you got what you reap what you sowed. You didn't do the work and you failed. What do you expect? And this kind of links into the other 3 points in terms of being very clear on what you have to do, just doing that thing, so picking the most effective what to do, and setting some deadlines. And there are a couple of sort of hacks that we can use in thinking about this. So if it's painful, do less of it. Do so much less that it's just, kind of bearable. A good idea around this is James Clear's 2-minute habits, which is something we'll talk about, which is just keep it small, keep it fun. If you can, keep it and do it at a time when you're most likely to do it. And probably the best time to do it is at the beginning of the day. Certainly for me, I think it's better to eat the frog. But anyway, that's what bad preparation looks like. And by avoiding those things, we can actually massively increase our effectiveness in terms of the time that we take to do the things that we actually need to do and are going to move the needle and make us better and more successful.